Welcome to worship at Camp Squeah. One of the best problems to have when we're starting church is not enough chairs. But we still have some, so if you're not sitting yet, there is one for you. Now, our theme for today is Meet Me at the Mountain. We have already completed the first step. We've met at the mountain. Now we begin the next step. We are going to be going on several hikes. First with Jesus and some of his disciples, and then some heroes of the past whom they met on the mountain. So, let's look at some things we need for our hike. A jacket if it gets cold, a water bottle if we get thirsty, a cap so we don't get sunstroke, sunscreen, flashlight if it gets too dark, Band-Aids for blisters on your feet or elsewhere, some calamine lotion to deal with bug bites, a map, and shorts if it gets too hot. Oh, and I have a coffee mug, but unfortunately it's already empty. So, one of the reasons for a hike is to find a private place to pray. So let's take some time right now to pray. Creator God, we thank you for the opportunity to gather here at this mountain so that we can enjoy the beauty of creation and be refreshed for the season that is beginning. Be with us here today and go with us as we go on with our lives. Amen. One of the things the Israelites supposedly did when they were walking around was sing. There are some psalms labeled as ascent psalms that are believed to be their traveling songs. So let's copy their example and do some singing.
Well, good morning, Emmanuel and everyone. Welcome to our worship service. I invite us to stand and we're going to sing Come Now is the Time to Worship and Faithful One as we worship the Lord.
Time to worship. Come, now is the time to give your heart. Come, just as you are to worship. Come, just as you are before. One day every tongue will confess you are God. One day every knee will bow. Still the greatest treasure remains for those who gladly choose you now. Come, now is the time to worship. Come. Time to give your heart. just as you are to worship. Come, just as you are before your Lord. Come, willingly we choose to surrender our lives, willingly on knees to bow. With all our soul, mind, and strength, we gladly choose you now. Come, now is the time to worship. Come, now is the time to give your Lord. Come, just as you are to worship. Come, just as you are before your Lord. Come, come. Faithful one, so unchanging, ageless one, you're my rock of peace. Lord of all, I depend on you. I call out to you again and again. I call out to you again and again. You are my rock in times of trouble. You lift me up when I fall down. All through the storm, your love is the anchor. My hope is in you alone. Faithful one, so unchanging, ageless one, you're my rock of peace. Lord of all, I depend on you. I call out to you again and again. I call out to you again and again. You are my rock in times of trouble. You lift me up when I fall down. All through the storm, your love is the anchor. My hope is in you alone.
There's a number of announcements. Good. You can hear me now. There's a number of announcements about things that are happening in the next few weeks. There's congregational meetings scheduled for the next 2 Sundays. Please check the bulletin for details. Many church activities that have enjoyed a summer recess are beginning again. Again, those details are in the bulletin. There are some learning opportunities that are announced in the bulletin. Some will take place in small groups within the church. Some are about First Nations life and history. And again, the bulletin has all the details. We are also being given the opportunity to exercise our writing talents in a new version of the church newsletter. So get busy thinking about that. We also want to take time to pray. There will be pauses where you can fill in the blanks with your own prayers. God, we come to you with thankful hearts for what is happening in our church and beyond. We are thankful that we have youth who enjoy coming to Emmanuel. Give them the courage to invite other friends to join them. Bless them as they start a new season of learning and activities. We're thankful for Liesl Retzlaff, who is joining us to assist with ministry while she studies at Columbia Bible College. We pray a blessing on her work. We pray with thankfulness for the church in Black Creek and for their pastor, Dan Forrest. May his ordination today be a blessing, not only for the church, but the whole community. And now for a silent moment. We also come with heavy hearts as we look at events in our world. We are burdened by the hate that fuels the conflict between Israelis and Palestinians. We are bothered by the escalation of ever more sophisticated weaponry that flies through the air between Russia and Ukraine. Other conflicts throughout the world also push down on us until we can only say, please God, show us the way. We ask for wisdom as we seek to find truth in the midst of election rhetoric that slams at us in multiple ways. Oh God, grant that wisdom. And now for another silent moment. Thank you, God, for hearing our prayers. Amen.
Please stand and we'll continue in the Lord's song.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was
The next song is Gracious Spirit, Njoo, Kwetu, Roho, Mwema. We're going to be singing 3 verses in Swahili. I would say go with it, go with the flow. And then we're going to do, when we sing the 3rd verse, we're going to sing the chorus in English and then go to the first, well, it will be the 4th verse for us, but actually the 1st verse in English. So it will be projected and we'll just follow along.
Njoo kwetu, Roho mwema, mfariji wetu. Tufundishe ya mbinguni, tuwe watu wapya. Njoo, njoo, njoo Roho mwema. Njoo.
I know I told you before we needed all this for hiking, but we're actually going to do a virtual hike. The good thing about virtual climbing is you get to stay in your seats. The second good thing is that you can climb 3 mountains in less than an hour. The third thing is that you meet interesting people on the way. And the fourth thing is that you don't encounter prickly bushes, annoying bugs, or menacing bears. And you don't get dirty. So we'll get started, and if the children want to hike to the back, there are some activities for them at a table that they can work on while we're listening to the stories of these virtual hikes. So first of all, Jesus and his disciples hiked up a mountain, believed to be Mount Tabor. Hearing the name Tabor is probably more familiar to those of us in Abbotsford as a seniors residential care facility. But in Israel, it refers to a mountain. It's in the area where Jesus spent a lot of time in Galilee. It isn't a particularly high mountain, more like a hill, just right for a climb after a busy week. And Joel's going to read us that story.
Okay, so this story is from Matthew 17, but I'm going to read the end of Matthew 16 because it gives us a little bit of kind of introduction to the story. So Jesus is talking with his disciples, and he says, "Before you know it, the Son of Man," and he's talking about himself, "will arrive with all the splendor of his Father. And some of you standing here," as in his disciples, "are going to see it take place. You're going to see the Son of Man in kingdom glory." And then the Message translation kind of makes the connection here in the first verse in Matthew 17. 6 days later, 3 of them saw that glory. Jesus took Peter and his brothers, and I think we have a picture, yeah, there. That's the supposed place of Mount Tabor there. Jesus took Peter and the brothers, James and John, and led them up a high mountain. His appearance changed from the inside out, right before their eyes. Sunlight poured from his face. His clothes were filled with light. Then they realized that Moses and Elijah were also there in deep conversation with him. And I wonder what they were talking about. Peter broke in. "Master, this is a great moment." And I like to think of Peter being kind of looking at, the big 3 here. We got Moses, the bringer of the law, Elijah, the most famous prophet, and then Jesus fulfilling them. And I think Peter is a little maybe starstruck. Actually, and can we go to the next slide, Peter? So this is, I think it's Raphael. He was a Renaissance painter, and he did an interpretation of this painting. And I feel like it's classic Renaissance painting style, where there's just a whole bunch, like people are doing a whole bunch of weird reactions and things, and there's so much to interpret here. And this is interesting because there's so many people watching this take place. Can you go to the next slide, Peter? I'll just show you a close-up of one of the, the guy there with his eyes. I like to think that's maybe Peter, just awestruck by the stars he's seeing. One of the guys is pointing, "Hey, this guy's painting." The guy holding it was like, "Ooh, okay." Anyways, so Peter's a little starstruck. He says, "What would you think if I built 3 memorials here on the mountain? One for you, one for Moses, one for Elijah." So I think Peter's really trying to suck up here, get on Jesus' good side. And the Message actually mentions, they talk about him like he's babbling. So while he was going on like this, babbling, a light radiant cloud enveloped them. And then sounding from deep in the cloud, a voice. "This is my son, marked by my love, focus of my delight. Listen to him." And then when the disciples heard this, they fell flat on their faces, scared to death. But Jesus came over and touched them. "Don't be afraid." And then when they opened their eyes again and looked around, all they saw was Jesus. Coming down from the mountain, Jesus swore them to secrecy. "Don't breathe a word of what you've seen. After the Son of Man is raised from the dead, then you are free to talk." So I'm okay. The disciples, meanwhile, were asking questions. Why do the religion scholars say that Elijah has to come first? I guess coming before Jesus. And Jesus answered, "Elijah has come." And we're not talking about the original Elijah. This is where it gets a little confusing when I read this. Let's see if you can follow along. Elijah does come and get everything ready. I'm telling you, Elijah has already come, but they didn't know him when they saw him. They treated him like dirt, the same way they are about to treat the Son of Man. And then the disciples realized that all along he'd been talking about John the Baptist, so as a kind of second coming, in a way, of Elijah. And so there's that interesting story on a mountain.
Peter wanted to set up some shelters on the mountain so they could stay forever, but staying was not on the schedule. However, they had met two very interesting heroes of the past. The first hero they met was Moses. So the Cheny family is going to tell us a bit about the story of Moses.
So I'm going to be reading the story from the Message version. 3 months after leaving Egypt, the Israelites entered the wilderness of Sinai. They followed the route from Rephidim, arrived at the wilderness of Sinai, and set up camp. Israel camped there facing the mountain. As soon as Moses went up to meet God, God called down to him from the mountain.
Speak to the house of Jacob. Tell the people of Israel, you have seen what I did in Egypt and how I carried you on eagle's wings and brought you to me. If you will listen obediently to what I say and keep my covenant, out of all the peoples you will be my special treasure. The whole earth is mine to choose from, but you are special, the kingdom of priests, a holy nation. This is what I want you to tell the people of Israel.
Moses came back and called the elders of Israel together and said before them all these words which God had commanded him. The people were unanimous in their responses. Everything God says, we will do. Moses took the people's answer back to God. God said to Moses,
Get ready. I'm about to come to you in a thick cloud so that the people can listen in and trust you completely when I speak to you. Again. This is recorded.
And Moses reported the people's answer to God. God says to Moses,
Go to the people. For the next 2 days, get these people ready to meet the holy God. Have them scrub their clothes so that on the third day they'll be fully prepared. Because on the third day, God will come down on Mount Sinai and make his presence known to all the people. Post boundaries for the people all around, telling them, warning, danger, do not climb the mountain, don't even touch its edge. Whoever touches the mountain dies a certain death. And no one is to touch that person. He is to be stoned. That's right, stoned. Or shot with arrows, shot to death. Animal or man, whichever, put it to death. A long blast from a horn will signal that it's safe to climb the mountain.
Moses went down the mountain to the people and prepared them for the holy meeting. They gave their clothes a good scrubbing. Then he addressed the people. Be ready in 3 days, don't sleep with anyone. On the third day, at break, there were loud claps of thunder, flashes of lightning, a big cloud covered the mountain, and an ear-piercing trumpet blast. Everyone in the camp shuddered in fear. Moses led the people out of the camp to meet God. They stood at attention at the base of the mountain. Mount Sinai was all smoke because God had come down on it as fire. Smoke poured from it like smoke from a furnace. The whole mountain shuddered and heaved. The trumpet blast grew louder and louder. Moses spoke and God answered in thunder. God descended to the peak of Mount Sinai. God called Moses up to the peak and Moses climbed up. God said to Moses, Go down and warn the people not to break through the barricade. The end.
No wonder Moses was a hero that Peter liked. Sounds just like the kind of person he would like. The other person Jesus and his hiking friends met was Elijah. Elijah was also a hero from the past. He lived many years after Moses. His chief occupation wasn't leading the Israelites, but keeping tabs on the behavior of the king and queen of that time, Ahab and Jezebel. That was no easy task. Jezebel was not known for her good behavior or her love for Israel's God. She didn't mind killing people who wanted to encourage people to love God. Aside from trying to keep the king and queen in line, there was a change in the climate pattern that affected the whole country. It didn't rain for 3 years. Yikes! Food was scarce. Nothing was growing, and the people were dying. Elijah only remained alive because God enabled him to find a woman who had a little flour and oil, enough to make pancakes for one more meal. Elijah, who was a devout believer in Israel's God, occasionally was able to do miracles. He helped the woman and her son by making sure that there was always enough flour and oil for one more meal, day after day, for about 2 years. But just surviving wasn't enough. Elijah realized he had to do something. People back then believed that lack of rain was punishment from the God they believed in. Praying really hard was a way to bring back rain. They prayed to any God they had ever heard about. Elijah wanted to convince them that the God he believed in was the only one who had the ability to change things. So he invited everyone to a barbecue on Mount Carmel. Anyway, Mount Carmel was one of the highest mountains in the area. You could see way out to the Mediterranean Sea if you were up high enough. At the foot of the mountain was a seaport. The port that's there today is called Haifa. Back in the Middle Ages, there was a town called Acre, which was a staging ground for the Crusades. Anyway, let's get back to our story. Elijah, as the prophet of Yahweh, the God of Israel, proposed a contest with the prophets of a god called Baal. Many people had turned to him because he was a god who was supposedly able to make things grow. So here's how the contest worked. Both groups would cut up some beef and lay it on a barbecue. Then they would pray to the gods to light fire under the beef. The prophets of Baal went first. They prayed for hours, but all they ended up with was raw meat. Then Elijah prayed for a while. A wisp of smoke and a small flame appeared. Finally, some cooked meat. Elijah's God won the day. Everyone agreed that Yahweh was the right God for their time. Before they had done feasting, a small cloud appeared on the horizon, way out over the sea. Then it got bigger and bigger, and the wind started to blow. By the time the people were starting to climb down the mountain, it was raining so hard that the chariots were in danger of getting stuck. This was the same Elijah who appeared on another mountain to talk with Jesus and his disciples. Because he was a hero from long ago, the disciples were eager to see and hear him. Elijah and the other prophets of Yahweh had faced being killed off by Jezebel. Jesus was also facing hostile forces who wanted to kill him. It must have been a comfort to talk to him. And now that we're back down the mountain and we have finished our 3 hikes, we're going to have some information about what happens at this mountain. Camp Director Rob Thiessen is here to share, and after that, Dawson will also talk about something that's happening in conjunction with this mountain.
Good morning. It is good to be with you this morning. And I appreciate hearing or looking back into history and seeing how God has met people up on the mountain. And I'm happy to say that the God who has been with people in the past continues to be with us, the God Emmanuel, here in this present day and age and here in this present space. I I've been asked to share a little bit about what has happened at Camp Squeah this summer. This summer was a special one. 1962 is when Camp Squeah was when the first program ran in the summertime. So although it had probably been purchased in 61, 62 was the first summer program. So this year marked our 62nd year. So we were 62 and 62. And so as you see in our shirts, we had some fun with a bit of nostalgia looking back at our history. And it was funny for me observing as the executive director to see our program team and our young adult leaders, their vision of Camp Squeah's history like 2-3 years ago was like way back when. And so they're missing bits and pieces of it. And I sometimes had to encourage them, oh, what about this? What about this part? But we had some fun looking back at our history and recognizing in the 60s, peace was a big, well not issue, but a big thing, but it came from a different standpoint, maybe the hippie love and peace. And so in our skit curriculum, we talked a little bit about what that kind of peace looks like, and we talked about conflict resolution, and a lot of stereotypes were drawn and things like that in our skits, but they had fun helping our campers recognize who the God of peace is and what peace really looks like and who is the Prince of Peace. And I can say, looking back, I could look at this summer with two perspectives. If you were to go back with me back into May, even, we were rather, we lacked peace in that we didn't have enough staff. We were turning campers away because we just didn't have enough supervision. And so we put out pleas, we were praying, Lord, send us people, send us young adult leaders. And we're thankful to say that, as is oftentimes the case, as we look back at our 62 years here at camp, God was faithful to provide, and there was some very last minute additions to our staff team, which usually for me creates a bit of anxiety because in some of those cases, we have to be honest, we haven't necessarily vetted everybody as well as we would have liked. We're fast tracking applications last minute and things like that, and you start wondering, what will this create in terms of our community? And I don't know why I always get emotional. I should be used to this by now. God provides, and we just had a wonderful team. And I'm so thrilled with the youthful enthusiasm, the energy, and a maturity that we hadn't seen for a while. Again, not to say in that previous years people were immature. It just, there was a depth in terms of people's spiritual walk and the ability to look after the needs of others rather than just focus on what our own personal needs were. And it was so encouraging to see sort of us turn a corner and these young adults, like week to week there were challenges. There's no doubt the challenges are unique in this day and age that we wouldn't be able to relate to 10 years ago. But this team was resourced and skillful and recognized when they couldn't do any more, and they looked to God as their support. And so super, super encouraging. One of the things we had to do this year to entice people to come was decide to shift our model a little bit. Historically, as many of you know, camp has relied heavily on volunteers to make up the majority of our team. We usually have about maybe 5 or 6 leadership team members who come in on a salary, and then the rest volunteer, many of which are eligible for bursaries that we can help them a little bit with. But over the last number of years, we've been consistently hearing the response from some of the quality returnees that we want to encourage to come back is saying, I would love to come, but I just can't afford it. And so we were losing these people at their prime and recognizing when they're just getting sort of well-trained and they've had a couple years under their belt and they really have a lot more to offer, we lose them to the best paying jobs out there to help them with their further schooling or just the cost of living. And last year we made a step in faith or a bold decision to invest from the front end and start paying more of our staff. So we added 20 people to our paid staff positions, and recognizing that we were only able incrementally to maybe increase camper fees in this given year, and that there would still be a gap there. And certainly that's where we are now in September, facing that gap that was created by the summer, but at the same time recognizing how valuable it was to be able to bring people on, knowing that they didn't have to worry about their deficits or their debt that they were incurring in order to sacrifice and invest here at camp. So, as many of you know, September is here, and 3 weeks from now we're going to be having a paddle-a-thon event. And whereas that paddle-a-thon historically was always about raising money only for bursary students, only for volunteers who were going to back to school, we've sort of expanded the vision of that to just help us continue to invest in staff. So, because we all know that the better quality staff we have, the better quality program we can deliver to the camper ultimately. And so it's just this win-win cycle of feeding into the lives of young people. And so this year we are going to be again paddling down the Harrison River on one day, on Saturday, and you have a paddler in your midst. It will be John Dawson representing Emmanuel. And it's not too late. If anybody else still wants to, we're getting late in the game, but there's still a few seats available in a few canoes. And we are looking to raise as much money as we possibly can, not so much for this year's staff, but for next year's staff. This is looking forward to making sure we can continue to say to people, there's opportunities here at camp, and your finances are hopefully going to be taken care of. So I encourage you to be involved in that, to sponsor John. He'll have an envelope there so he can take your address information. You can even just pledge for now and he'll get that information. And then Camp Squeah will be able to give you a receipt at the end of the day. But recognize this is an investment into the next generation, and whether it's into the lives of campers or staff, it's just going to help us continue to move forward. I'm happy to answer any questions about camp and what's going on here after the service, if you like. But otherwise, thank you so much for your participation. I trust and pray that God has met you even this weekend here in a special way. I will add one little side trail note, because we all know that when we go hiking, oftentimes we get different observations that get us sidetracked. One of my personal highlights this past summer was on one of our weekends that a few of our adventurous staff decided to do some things historical that hadn't been done for a long time. And we had, I think, 6 people decide on a day that they were gonna paddle a canoe across the river here. Like, they basically carried the canoe to the end of the property, brought it down to the river, paddled across, and then they trudged. And believe me, it was a trudge and a slog up Mount Squeah. Meanwhile, there's about 4 others who decided they were going to go check out Watton Lake. Again, a destination that hasn't been hiked for a couple of years, so it gets pretty overgrown. And what they found was when they each got to their destination point, we always have a safety way of checking in, so we have radios that go out, and we didn't know if they would have good coverage, so we provided them with satellite backup service. Well, and it turns out they had very good radio coverage, as well as they all found cellular data coverage up there, so they could use their phones. But interestingly, while one group was radioing in from Watton, the group that was on Mount Squeah could hear directly from them. And so then, first of all, they were radioing each other. And then on top of that, they decided to see if they could somehow signal each other. They were playing flashlight tag from Mount Squeah to Watton Lake. And I think historically that's the first. So that was fun to see the way they could sort of stay connected and tied in, even though they were mountain ranges apart.
Thank you so much for that interesting report. And John tells me that Rob has already signaled me that Rob has already said everything he wanted to say, which is good. We wanted to hear that anyway. So let's now pray. and then we'll have our sending songs, and then if there are any announcements about lunch and checkout, we will hear those. So let's take time to pray. Creator God, we thank you for the opportunity to gather here at this mountain so that we can enjoy the beauty of creation and be refreshed for the season that's beginning. Be with us here today and go with us as we go on with our lives. Amen.
So I invite us to stand as we sing closing songs, and I imagine these songs being a little bit somewhat reflective, but also what's the word? Yes, celebratory. So I invite us, if you're able, I was thinking, I could send everyone over the kitchen, get a pot, pans, spoons and forks, and we could use those as instruments, but I don't know how the kitchen staff will take that. So we're gonna clap, use our hands, and or whatever you have that you can shake, and let's celebrate together after being to the mountain and what God has for us and has told us and taught us that we can use in our lives.
Over my head, I hear voices in the air. Over my head, I hear voices in the air. Over my head, I hear voices in the air. There must be a God somewhere. And when I think I hear music in the air. Over my head, I hear music in the air. And when the world is silent, I hear music in the air. There must be a God somewhere.
Here we go.
Over my head, I hear music in the air. Over my head, I hear music in the air. Over my head, I hear music in the air. There must be a God somewhere. And when I'm feeling lonely, I hear music in the air. When I'm feeling lonely, I hear music in the air. And when I'm feeling lonely, I hear music in the air. There must be a God somewhere. Over my head, I hear music in the air. Over my head, I hear music in the air. Over my head, I hear music in the air. There must be a God somewhere. And when I think of Jesus, I hear music in the air. And when I think of Jesus, I hear music in the air. And when I think of Jesus, I hear music in the air. There must be a God somewhere. Over my head, I hear music in the air. Over my head, I hear music in the air. Over my head, I hear music in the air. There must be a God somewhere. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna
shine. Oh, Jesus gave it to me. I'm gonna let it shine. Jesus gave it to me. I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. Shine, shine, shine. I'm gonna let it shine. Oh, shine, shine, shine. I'm gonna let it shine. Shine, shine, shine. I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine. Let it shine.
All right, well, you still have some shine outside that you can enjoy for about another hour. Lunch is at 12:30, so if you have some packing up to do, you can do that, or you can just go out and enjoy what's out there. So it's been good to worship together this morning. I should say, Rob, I didn't mention to Rob that I've set a goal of $5,000 this year to paddle. I figure if I'm going to be in that much pain, I should get some good money for it. Plus, I just know the demands that are on the fund. So, you know, if 5 of you want to give me $1,000, we're done. But, you know, I'd also take 100 people at 50 or whatever you can give. So I appreciate the support. I know the camp appreciates the support. And I'm looking forward to paddling again this year. So, God bless you, go with you, and we'll see you at lunch at 12:30. Oh yes, if we could get many hands make light work, so if some of you can help us with putting the chairs away, that would be great.